Having considered the statements of counsel, the evidence presented, and the guidelines set forth by law, it is the judgment of this court that you be committed to the custody of the Department of Corrections for a term of...
The courtroom falls silent. Judge Sherry Stevens looks down from the bench at the woman seated at the defense table. Jodi Arias, 34 years old, sits motionless. Her hands are folded. Her face is blank, but her eyes, dark, calculating, betray nothing. It is April 13th, 2015. Nearly 7 years have passed since the murder. Nearly 2 years since the guilty verdict. And today, finally, the sentencing. Ms. Arias. Judge Stevens begins, her voice measured and firm. On May 8, 2013, a jury in this court found you guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Travis Victor Alexander. The jury heard testimony for 4 months. They saw the evidence. They heard your testimony, all 18 days of it. And they unanimously found that on June 4th, 28, you murdered Travis Alexander in a manner that... Jodi doesn't flinch. Judge Stevens continues. And the penalty phase of your trial resulted in a hung jury. Under Arizona law, the decision of your sentence now falls to this court. A pause. For the murder of Travis Alexander, for stabbing him 27 times, for slashing his throat so deeply that you nearly decapitated him, for shooting him in the head, this court sentences you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There is no gasp, no outburst. Jodi simply nods, as if she expected it, as if she's already moved on. But the path to this moment, the lies, the obsession, the blood, the camera that captured everything, began years before. It began with a chance meeting at a conference in Las Vegas. It began with a man who believed in second chances, and a woman who would destroy him. This is the story of Jodi Arias, and the murder that captivated a nation. On the morning of June 9, 2008, 5 days after Travis Alexander was murdered, his friends broke down the door to his Mesa, Arizona home. What they found in the upstairs bathroom would become one of the most infamous crime scenes in American history. Travis Alexander's body was stuffed in the shower stall, decomposed, contorted. Blood covered the walls, the floor, the sink. The smell was overwhelming. His friends, who had come looking for him after he missed a business call, immediately dialed 911. Within hours, Mesa Police Department detectives descended on the scene. What they uncovered wasn't just a murder. It was a slaughter. The autopsy, performed by medical examiner Dr. Kevin Horn, revealed the full horror. 27 stab wounds, tortured, most to the back and torso. Defensive wounds on his hands where he tried to fight back. A throat wound so deep it severed his trachea, esophagus, and carotid artery, nearly decapitating him. A gunshot wound to the right temple, entering through his right eyebrow and lodging in his left cheek. Travis Alexander didn't just die. He was executed. In his own home. In his own bathroom. And the killer had tried, desperately, to cover it up. But she made mistakes. The evidence left behind. Detectives found a digital camera in the washing machine, thrown in with towels and clothes in a failed attempt to destroy it. Camera's memory card had been erased, but forensic technicians recovered the deleted photos. What they found was chilling. At 1:40 p.m. on June 4th, 2008. Photos of Travis Alexander alive, posing in the shower. He's looking at the camera, trusting, unaware. And 1:44 p.m. An accidental photo of the ceiling. Blurred. Chaotic. Taken mid-attack. 1:37 p.m. A photo of Travis's body being dragged down the hallway. Blood streaks across the floor. His lifeless eyes staring at nothing. The camera had time-stamped everything. The photos told the story the killer didn't want anyone to know. Forensic teams also found A bloody palm print on the hallway wall. DNA analysis revealed it contained a mixture of blood, Travis Alexander's and someone else's. A strand of hair stuck in the blood on the floor. The DNA from the root belonged to a woman. Blood spatter patterns indicating a prolonged violent struggle. Travis had tried to escape. He'd crawled toward the bedroom, but the attacker followed. And most damning of all, the bloody palm print and hair belonged to Jodi Arias, Travis's ex-girlfriend, the woman he'd broken up with a year earlier, the woman who couldn't let go. The question no one could answer. How does a woman, 5'6", 120 pounds, overpower and kill a man who was 5'9", 185 pounds, and in good physical shape? How does she stab him 27 times, slash his throat and shoot him? And why? Detectives had their suspect, but they needed to understand the relationship, the history, the obsession, because this wasn't a crime of passion. This was premeditated, calculated, and Jodi Arias had planned it meticulously. The story begins 2 years earlier, at a prepaid legal services conference in Las Vegas, where Travis Alexander, a charismatic motivational speaker and devout Mormon, met Jodi Arias, a quiet, artistic photographer looking for purpose. Their connection was instant. Their relationship, toxic. And the ending, inevitable. Who was Travis Alexander? Travis Victor Alexander was born on July 28, 1977, in Riverside, California. He was the fourth of 8 children born to Gary and Pamela Alexander, both of whom struggled with drug addiction. Travis's childhood was marked by instability, neglect, and poverty. By the time he was 10 years old, his parents were using methamphetamine regularly. The children often went without food. The house was filthy. Travis and his siblings learned early that survival meant depending on each other, not on their parents. When Travis was 11, his grandmother, Norma Sarvey, took custody of him and several of his siblings. It was a turning point. Norma was a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, and she introduced Travis to the faith. He embraced it completely. The church gave him structure, community, and a sense of purpose he'd never had. Travis excelled. He became an Eagle Scout. He served a 2-year mission for the church in Denver, Colorado. And when he returned, he threw himself into building a career. He joined Prepaid Legal Services, PPL, a multi-level marketing company that sold legal insurance. Travis was a natural salesman, charismatic, motivating, inspiring. By his late 20s, he was earning 6 figures and traveling the country as a motivational speaker. His friends described him as generous, funny, and deeply committed to his faith. He wanted to marry in the Mormon temple. He wanted a family. He wanted to live according to his beliefs. But Travis had a secret, a struggle, one that would ultimately cost him his life. Travis Alexander was a 30-year-old virgin, not by choice necessarily, but by commitment to his faith's teachings on chastity. Yet, he was also a man with desires, and those desires, combined with his relationships with women, created a tension that he struggled to reconcile. Enter Jodi Arias. Who was Jodi Arias? Jodi Arias was born on July 9, 1980, in Salinas, California, to William and Sandra Arias. She was the eldest of 4 children. By outward appearances, her childhood seemed normal. But Jodi later claimed, during her trial testimony, that her parents physically and emotionally abused her starting at age 7. Her parents disputed these claims. In interviews with detectives, they described Jodi as a troubled, manipulative child who threw tantrums, lied frequently, and struggled with authority. Her father, William Arias, even told police he suspected Jodi had mental health issues and that friends had suggested she needed professional help. Jodi dropped out of high school in her junior year. She worked odd jobs, waitressing, bartending, photography. She moved frequently. She dated frequently. and her relationships often followed a pattern: intense, consuming, and ending badly. Before Travis, Jodi dated Daryl Brewer, a man nearly 17 years her senior. They lived together for 4 years. Friends described Jodi as submissive, eager to please, and chameleon-like. She molded herself into whatever her partner wanted. In early 2006, Jodi attended a prepaid legal services training event in California. She was looking for a career change. Instead, she found her next obsession. September 2006. The meeting. In September 2006, Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias met at a PPL conference in Las Vegas. Travis was 29. Jodi was 26. Friends who witnessed their first interaction said the chemistry was immediate. Travis was drawn to Jodi's quiet beauty and her attention. Jodi was captivated by Travis's confidence and charm. They spent the evening talking. By the end of the night, they'd exchanged numbers. Within weeks, they were dating. Within months, Jodi had converted to Mormonism. Baptized into the faith on November 26, 2006, in a ceremony where Travis stood as a witness. It seemed like a perfect match. A man looking for a devout wife, a woman willing to reshape her entire life for him. But beneath the surface, cracks were already forming. The relationship, passion, and toxicity. Travis and Jodi's relationship was intense from the start. They texted constantly. They talked on the phone for hours. Jodi traveled from California to Arizona frequently to see him. And despite Travis's commitment to chastity, their relationship became sexual almost immediately. This created a profound internal conflict for Travis. He felt guilty. He confessed to church leaders. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't resist Jodi. And Jodi, she used sex as a tool to keep him close, to bind him to her, to make herself indispensable. Friends of Travis's, particularly Sky and Chris Hughes, a married couple who were close to him, noticed troubling patterns. Jodi was clingy, controlling. She monitored Travis's phone. She showed up uninvited. She inserted herself into every aspect of his life. In emails to Travis, Sky Hughes wrote, "Jodi is not good for you. She's manipulative. She's controlling. You need to end this." Travis knew they were right, but he didn't listen. Not yet. By April 2007, just 7 months into the relationship, the problems were undeniable. Jodi was calling Travis multiple times a day. She was demanding, jealous, possessive. Travis felt suffocated, and despite the sexual chemistry, he couldn't see a future with her. In June 2007, Travis broke up with Jodi. He told her they weren't compatible. He said he needed to focus on finding a wife within his faith, someone who shared his values, someone he could marry in the temple. Jodi said she understood. She said they could still be friends, but she didn't mean it. Travis Alexander thought the breakup would free him. He didn't realize it was the beginning of Jodi Arias' obsession. And obsession, as Travis would learn too late, doesn't let go. When Travis Alexander ended his relationship with Jodi Arias in June 2007, he believed he was making a clean break. He thought they'd drift apart, that she'd move on, that he could focus on finding the right woman to marry. He was wrong. Jodi Arias didn't move on. She moved to Mesa. In January 2008, despite the breakup, Jodi relocated from California to Arizona, specifically to Mesa, the same city where Travis lived. She told people she was moving for work opportunities with prepaid legal services. But everyone who knew the situation understood the truth. Jodi was moving to be near Travis. Travis's friends were alarmed. They warned him. They told him Jodi was crossing boundaries. But Travis, ever the optimist, believed he could manage the situation. He thought they could remain friends. He thought Jodi understood the relationship was over. He was catastrophically wrong. The stalking begins. Within weeks of moving to Mesa, Jodi's behavior escalated from concerning to terrifying. What started as excessive phone calls and text messages spiraled into full-blown stalking. Travis confided in friends that Jodi was A-ing his accounts. She broke into his Facebook, email, and bank accounts. She read his private messages. She monitored his communications with other women, slashing his tires. On 2 separate occasions, Travis woke up to find his tires slashed. He suspected Jodi but couldn't prove it. Peering through his windows, multiple times, Travis and friends saw someone lurking outside his house at night. On one occasion, Travis chased the figure, but they escaped, following him on dates. When Travis went out with other women, Jodi would mysteriously show up at the same locations. Friends described Travis as increasingly paranoid. He changed his passwords. He told friends to be careful about what they said around Jodi. He knew she was watching, but he still didn't cut her off completely. Why? Because Travis Alexander had a secret. One he was deeply ashamed of. One that Jodi Arias knew and exploited. The warnings. Sky and Chris Hughes. Sky and Chris Hughes were among Travis's closest friends. They'd known him for years through the PPL business network. And from the moment they met Jodi Arias, they knew something was wrong. Sky Hughes later testified and spoke publicly in interviews after the trial about the warnings she and her husband gave Travis. In early 2007, while Travis and Jodi were still dating, Sky sat Travis down for a serious conversation. I told him, "Travis, I'm afraid we're going to find you chopped up in her freezer." Sky recalled in an interview with ABC's 2020. "I know that sounds dramatic, but I genuinely felt she was dangerous. There was something about her that was unsettling. The way she watched Travis. The way she controlled conversations. The way she made everything about her." Chris Hughes echoed his wife's concerns. He told Travis that Jodi seemed manipulative, that her behavior was concerning, and that the relationship wasn't healthy. He pointed out that Jodi would lie about small things, inconsequential things, for no apparent reason. "That's a red flag," Chris told Travis. "If someone lies about little things, they'll lie about big things." But Travis didn't listen. Or rather, he couldn't let go completely. In emails between Travis and the Hughes couple, emails that were introduced as evidence during the trial, the warnings were explicit. Sky wrote to Travis in February 2007. "Travis, I know you don't want to hear this, but Jodi is not good for you. She is manipulative. She is controlling. She makes you feel guilty when you try to have boundaries. This is not love. This is obsession. And it's not healthy." Travis responded, "I know you're right. I know I need to end it. But it's complicated." Complicated. That word would haunt the case. Because Travis couldn't, or wouldn't, explain why he kept Jodi in his life. Even after the breakup in June 2007, even after she moved to Mesa, even after the tire slashing and the hacking, Travis continued to engage with Jodi. He continued to see her. He continued to sleep with her. And his friends watched with growing alarm. The secret. Sex after the breakup. Despite ending the romantic relationship, Travis continued to have sex with Jodi. Regularly. Often at his house. Sometimes when she showed up unannounced. For Travis, a devout Mormon who believes sex should be reserved for marriage, this created profound guilt and shame. He confided in friends that he felt like a hypocrite. He wanted to stop. He tried to stop. But Jodi made it easy. And Travis was weak. For Jodi, sex was power. It was her way back in. Every time Travis slept with her, it reinforced her belief that he still wanted her. That they were still connected. That she still had a chance. But Travis was clear with friends. He would never marry Jodi. She wasn't temple-worthy. She wasn't the kind of woman he could see himself with long-term. The sex was a mistake. A weakness. Nothing more. Jodi didn't see it that way. To her, Travis was hers. And anyone who threatened that was an enemy. The sex tape. A weapon for the trial. On May 10, 2008, just 25 days before the murder, Jodi recorded a phone conversation with Travis without his knowledge. The conversation was sexual, explicit, graphic. During the trial, Jodi's defense team played this recording in court. It was part of their strategy to portray Travis as sexually deviant and to support Jodi's claims that he was controlling and treated her like an object. The recording was played in front of the jury, the media, and Travis's family. For nearly 45 minutes, the court listened to Travis and Jodi engaging in phone sex. Travis talked about fantasies. Jodi played along, describing scenarios in explicit detail. Prosecutor Juan Martinez objected to the playing of the tape, arguing it was inflammatory and designed to embarrass Travis Alexander's family. But Judge Stevens allowed it, ruling that it was relevant to the defense's claim of an abusive, sexually coercive relationship. Travis's family sat in the courtroom, devastated. They later said that hearing the tape was one of the most painful moments of the trial, not because Travis had engaged in phone sex, but because Jodi had recorded it without his knowledge and was now using it as a weapon against him, even after his death. Legal analysts noted that the tape actually hurt Jodi's case. The conversation was consensual. Travis never threatened Jodi. He never coerced her. If anything, the tape showed that Jodi was an active, willing participant in the sexual relationship. It undermined her claim that she was a victim of sexual abuse. But the defense hoped the jury would see Travis as morally flawed, a religious hypocrite who said one thing publicly and did another privately. They hoped it would make the jury question whether Travis was really the perfect victim the prosecution portrayed him to be. It didn't work. July 2007. Travis dates Lisa Andrews. In July 2007, just weeks after breaking up with Jodi, Travis began dating Lisa Andrews, an 18-year-old Mormon girl he met through church. She was everything Jodi wasn't: young, innocent, devout. Travis was smitten. Jodi was enraged. Lisa later testified that during her relationship with Travis, she experienced disturbing incidents. Her tires were slashed twice. She received anonymous emails accusing Travis of being a cheater and a liar. Travis's friends told her to be careful, that his ex-girlfriend was crazy and obsessed. Lisa eventually ended the relationship in February 2008, partly because of the drama surrounding Travis and Jodi. She told friends she felt like she was being watched, that someone was following her, that Travis's ex was making her life hell. Travis apologized to Lisa. He told her he was sorry she'd been dragged into his mess with Jodi, but the damage was done. Lisa walked away. May 2008. Travis dates Mimi Hall. By spring 2008, Travis had moved on again. He was dating Mimi Hall, a young Mormon woman who seemed like a perfect match. Travis even invited her to join him on a work trip to Cancun in June, a trip he'd earned as a top PPL salesman. Jodi found out about Mimi, and she was furious. Friends later testified that in the weeks leading up to the murder, Travis told them he was afraid of Jodi. He said she'd hacked his Facebook again. He said she was stalking him. He said he felt like he was being watched. On May 26, 2008, Travis sent a text message to Sky Hughes. "I think Jodi broke into my email again. She knows things I haven't told her." But Travis didn't call the police. He didn't file a restraining order. He didn't cut Jodi off completely. Instead, he continued to engage with her. He continued to sleep with her. And he continued to underestimate just how dangerous she had become. May 26, 2008. The explosive text message. On May 26, 2008, Travis Alexander sent Jodi a series of text messages that would later be read in court. These messages revealed the depth of his frustration, his anger, and his growing realization that Jodi Arias was dangerous. The messages were brutal. "You are the worst thing that ever happened to me. You have worn out your welcome. You have no self-respect. You are a sociopath. You only cry for yourself. You are sick, and you have scammed me. I am tired of you. I want you to understand how evil I think you are. You are the most evil person I know." Travis went on to accuse Jodi of lying, manipulating, and invading his privacy. He told her to leave him alone, to stop contacting him. to find someone else to torment. Legal experts noted that these text messages, sent just 9 days before the murder, showed Travis Alexander was finally, definitively trying to cut Jodi out of his life. He was setting boundaries. He was standing up to her. And that, prosecutors argued, is what signed his death warrant. Because Jodi Arias couldn't let Travis go. If she couldn't have him, no one could. And if he was going to publicly reject her, she would make sure he never rejected anyone again. May 28, 2008. The gun is stolen. On May 28, 2008, exactly 1 week before the murder, a burglary occurred at the Eureka, California home of Jodi's grandparents, where Jodi was living at the time. The burglar took a .25 caliber handgun, some jewelry, and a small amount of cash. Jodi's grandfather reported the theft to police. When detectives later interviewed Jodi's grandparents, they noted something odd. The house showed no signs of forced entry. The gun had been taken from a drawer in a bedroom. Whoever stole it knew where to find it. Prosecutors would later argue that Jodi staged the burglary herself, that she stole her grandfather's gun specifically to kill Travis Alexander. Jodi denied this. She claimed the burglary was real and coincidental, but the timing was damning. 1 week later, Travis Alexander would be shot with a .25 caliber handgun, the same caliber as the stolen gun. The final weeks, Travis tries to end it. Friends believed Travis was finally standing up to Jodi, that he was finally cutting her off for good. But Jodi wasn't done. Not yet. On June 2, 2008, Jodi told friends she was taking a road trip. She said she was driving from California to Utah to visit a man named Ryan Burns, someone she'd met at a PPL event, and was interested in dating. It was a 1,000-mile drive, a long trip, a chance for a fresh start, she said. But Jodi had a different plan, a plan she'd been preparing for weeks, a plan that would take her through Mesa, Arizona, a plan that would end with Travis Alexander dead. Jodi Arias borrowed gas cans. She dyed her hair blonde. She rented a car 90 miles from her hometown to avoid being recognized. And she told everyone she was going to Utah. She wasn't lying, but she wasn't telling the truth either. Because Jodi Arias had one stop to make first. On June 2, 2008, Jodi Arias began a journey that would end in murder. Officially, she was taking a road trip from Northern California to West Jordan, Utah, to visit Ryan Burns, a man she'd been flirting with for months. But prosecutors would later argue that the trip was a carefully orchestrated plan to kill Travis Alexander and get away with it. June theft. The preparations. The day before she left, Jodi visited her ex-boyfriend, Daryl Brewer, at his home in Monterey, California. She asked to borrow 2 5-gallon gas cans. Daryl thought it was odd. Jodi had never borrowed gas cans before, but he handed them over without question. Jodi told him she was going on a long road trip and wanted to save money by filling the cans at cheaper gas stations. Later that same day, Jodi went to a Walmart in Salinas, California. She purchased a third 5-gallon gas can. She paid cash. She kept the receipt. Prosecutors would argue that Jodi bought the extra gas can and borrowed 2 more, so she could drive through Arizona without stopping for gas. No gas station stops meant no paper trail, no credit card receipts, no witnesses, no proof she was ever in Arizona. Jodi's explanation? She needed the gas cans because she was driving through remote areas and didn't want to run out of fuel. She said she later returned the third gas can to Walmart for a refund. But there was a problem with her story. Walmart had no record of the return, no receipt, no refund transaction, nothing. June 3rd. The rental car. On June 3rd, 2008, Jodi rented a car from Budget Rent-A-Car, not in her hometown of Eureka, but in Redding, California, nearly 90 miles away. The car was a white Ford Focus. Prosecutors argued Jodi rented the car in Redding to avoid being recognized. If she'd rented in Eureka, people who knew her might remember. But in Redding, she was just another customer. The rental agent later testified about something unusual. Jodi specifically requested a car that wasn't red. She said she didn't like red cars because they stand out too much. Prosecutors argued this was another sign of premeditation. Jodi wanted a car that would blend in, a car that wouldn't be remembered. Jodi's explanation? She just didn't like red cars. Nothing sinister. But there was more. When Jodi returned the rental car on June 7, 3 days after the murder, the rental agent noted something strange. The car had floor mats missing, and there were suspicious stains on the seats and in the trunk.
The odometer showed Jodi had driven 2,800 miles, far more than the 1,000-mile round trip from California to Utah would require. June 3rd, the hair dye. On the evening of June 3rd, 2008, Jodi dyed her hair. She went from brunette to blonde. Friends later testified that Jodi had never expressed interest in dyeing her hair blonde before. Travis had always known her as a brunette. So why the sudden change? Prosecutors argued it was part of her disguise. Jodi wanted to avoid being recognized if anyone saw her in Arizona. A blonde woman in a white car wouldn't stand out. A brunette ex-girlfriend definitely would. Jodi's explanation? She was just trying something new. She wanted a fresh look for her trip to see Ryan Burns. But Ryan Burns later testified that when Jodi arrived at his house on June 5th, she didn't look blonde. Her hair looked strawberry blonde, like she'd tried to dye it but it hadn't taken properly. June 30, the drive. Late on June 3rd, Jodi Arias left Northern California in the white Ford Focus. According to her later testimony, she planned to drive straight through to Utah, a 12-hour trip. But prosecutors argued she had a different destination in mind: Mesa, Arizona. Travis Alexander's house. A detour that would add hundreds of miles and cost Travis his life. Jodi filled her 3 gas cans at a gas station in Pasadena, California. She paid cash. She kept the receipt. Later, prosecutors would argue that Jodi filled the gas cans so she could drive through Arizona without stopping. If she didn't stop for gas in Arizona, there'd be no credit card receipts, no witnesses, no proof she was ever there. Jodi's timeline, reconstructed from cell phone records, gas receipts, and witness testimony, showed something damning. June 3rd, 8:80 p.m. Jodi's cell phone pings off a tower near Eureka, California. She's leaving town. June 4th, 12:37 a.m. Jodi's cell phone pings off a tower near Redding, California, heading south. June 4th, 12:13 a.m. 4:19 p.m. Jodi's cell phone goes dark, completely silent. No calls. No texts. No pings. For 16 hours, her phone is turned off. June 4th, 10:29 p.m. Jodi's cell phone pings off a tower near Mesquite, Nevada, just over the Arizona-Nevada border, heading toward Utah. The silent period, the 16 hours when Jodi's phone was off, lined up perfectly with the time it would take to drive from California to Mesa, Arizona, commit the murder, and drive back out of the state. Prosecutors argued Jodi turned off her phone to avoid creating a digital trail placing her in Arizona. It was calculated, premeditated, part of the plan. Jodi's explanation? Her phone must have died. Or maybe she just forgot to turn it on. She couldn't remember. June 4th, 2008. The murder. Sometime in the early afternoon of June 4th, 2008, Jodi Arias arrived at Travis Alexander's house in Mesa, Arizona. How she got in remains disputed. Jodi later claimed Travis invited her, that they'd planned a romantic encounter. She said Travis had been texting her, asking her to come visit on her way to Utah. But there were no text messages, no phone records, no evidence that Travis had invited her at all. Travis's friends testified that he was planning to take Mimi Hall to Cancun the next day. He was excited. He had no reason to invite Jodi. In fact, Travis had been telling friends he wanted nothing to do with her. Prosecutors argued that Jodi showed up uninvited, that she let herself in, possibly with a key she'd copied before moving away, or that Travis, seeing her at the door, reluctantly let her in to avoid a scene. What happened next was captured in photos. Photos that Jodi didn't know still existed on the camera she tried to destroy. Jodi Arias thought she'd covered her tracks. The gas cans, the blonde hair, the phone turned off. But she forgot one thing, the camera. And that camera would tell the truth she tried so hard to hide. At 1:40 p.m. on June 4, 2008, Travis Alexander was alive. At 1:47 p.m., he was dead. 7 minutes. That's how long it took for Jodi Arias to stab Travis Alexander 27 times, slit his throat, and shoot him in the head. And the entire attack was documented, accidentally, by the same camera Jodi thought she'd destroyed. 1:40 p.m. The shower photos. The recovered photos from Travis's Sony camera showed that at 1:40 p.m., Jodi was taking pictures of Travis in the shower. He's sitting on the floor of the shower stall, water running over him. He's posing, looking at the camera, smiling in some shots, serious in others. Jodi later testified that this was part of a photo shoot she and Travis had planned. She said they'd spent the afternoon together, talking, having sex, being intimate. She said Travis asked her to take the photos because he was trying to build his modeling portfolio. But friends disputed this. Travis had never expressed interest in modeling. He'd never mentioned wanting professional photos taken in his shower. Prosecutors argued that Jodi was the one who suggested the photos, that she wanted time-stamped evidence placing Travis alive and in the shower so she could control the narrative. She wanted proof of their romantic day together in case anyone questioned why she was there. The last clear photo of Travis alive was taken at 1:44 p.m. He's looking directly at the camera. His face is relaxed. He has no idea what's about to happen. 50 seconds later, everything changes. 1:44:52 p.m. The first accidental photo. At 1:44:52 p.m., the camera captures an accidental photo. It's blurred, chaotic. The image shows the ceiling and part of Travis's body, out of focus, distorted. The photo is timestamped. Forensic analysts believe this is the moment the attack began. Jodi likely dropped the camera as she lunged at Travis with the knife. The camera hit the floor and took the photo accidentally. What happened in those few seconds? Jodi later claimed Travis became violent, that he body slammed her, that she ran to his closet, grabbed a gun she didn't know existed, and shot him in self-defense. But the forensic evidence told a different story. The forensic evidence, stab wounds first. Dr. Kevin Horn, the medical examiner who performed the autopsy, testified that based on the nature and severity of Travis's wounds, the stab wounds came first, not the gunshot. Here's what the forensic evidence showed. 27 stab wounds, primarily to Travis's back, shoulders, and torso. 9 of the wounds were to his back, indicating he was trying to run away. Defensive wounds on his hands, deep cuts to his palms and fingers, consistent with someone trying to grab the blade of a knife to stop the attack. A cluster of stab wounds to his upper back and neck, showing the attacker stabbed him repeatedly as he tried to escape. The wounds told a clear story. Travis was attacked while he was in the shower. He fought back. He tried to run, but the attacker followed him. Blood spatter patterns showed that Travis crawled down the hallway toward his bedroom, leaving a blood trail along the wall. He was bleeding heavily from the stab wounds. His hands left bloody smears as he tried to push himself forward, but he didn't make it far. Jodi followed him, and she wasn't done. The throat wound. The most devastating wound came next, the throat slash. Dr. Horn testified that the wound to Travis's throat was so deep it severed his trachea, esophagus, and carotid artery. The cut was made with such force that it nearly decapitated him. Travis Alexander bled out on the bathroom floor. And then, after he was already dying, Jodi shot him. The gunshot wound. The gunshot wound was to Travis's right temple. The bullet entered through his right eyebrow and lodged in his left cheek. Dr. Horn testified that the wound was not immediately fatal. Travis could have survived it temporarily. But combined with the stab wounds and the throat slash, it ensured his death. Prosecutors argued that Jodi shot Travis after he was already incapacitated, that the gunshot wasn't self-defense. It was the final act of rage. Why did Jodi use 3 methods to kill Travis? Prosecutors believed it was because she'd never killed anyone before. She didn't know what would work, so she tried everything. the knife, the gun, the throat slash. She made sure he was dead. 1:47 p.m. The dragging photo. At 1:47:18 p.m., just 3 minutes after the attack began, the camera took one final accidental photo. This image is the most haunting. It shows a portion of the bathroom floor. Travis's body is visible, motionless. Blood is everywhere. And at the bottom of the frame, part of a pant leg is visible. Black pants. Jodi's pants. Forensic analysts believe this photo was taken when Jodi accidentally stepped on the camera while dragging Travis's body back to the shower. The image is blurred, but the timestamp is exact. 1:47:18 p.m. By 1:47 p.m., Travis Alexander was dead, and Jodi Arias had 7 minutes to clean up. The cleanup. After killing Travis, Jodi tried to cover her tracks. She dragged Travis's body back into the shower stall, positioning him upright as if he'd died there naturally. Washed blood off her hands and arms. Threw the camera, towels, and bloodied clothes into the washing machine, hoping the wash cycle would destroy the evidence. Attempted to clean the blood from the bathroom walls and floor, though she missed large areas. Took the knife and gun with her when she left. Neither weapon was ever found. But Jodi left behind critical evidence. A bloody palm print on the hallway wall. The print contained a mixture of Travis's blood and Jodi's DNA. A strand of Jodi's hair, stuck in the congealed blood on the bathroom floor. The camera, which she threw in the washing machine but failed to destroy. The memory card survived. The photos were recovered. Forensic analysts later testified that the bloody palm print was the smoking gun. It placed Jodi at the scene, not just in the house but in the bloody hallway moments after the murder. Jodi later claimed the palm print must have been left on a previous visit, but the blood in the print was fresh, wet, dyed, consistent with being made on June 4, 28, the day of the murder. 2:00 p.m. Jodi leave. By 2:00 p.m. Jodi Arias was gone. She left Travis's body in the shower. She left the house unlocked, and she drove away in her white rental car, heading north toward Utah. Travis's roommates, Zachary Billings and Enrique Cortez, had been home during the murder. They later testified that they heard nothing unusual. No screams. No sounds of a struggle. Nothing. Nothing. Both roommates were on the first floor of the house. Travis's bedroom and bathroom were upstairs. The house was large. The walls were thick. It's possible they simply didn't hear. Or, as prosecutors suggested, Jodi attacked Travis so quickly and violently that he didn't have time to scream. June 4, 8:00 p.m. The phone call. At 8:04 p.m. on June 4, 2008, just 6 hours after the murder, Jodi Arias called Travis Alexander's cell phone and left a voicemail. Her voice was cheerful, casual, like nothing had happened. "Hey, it's Jodi. I just wanted to let you know I made it to Utah safely. Hope you're having a great day. Call me when you get a chance. Love you." Prosecutors played this voicemail during the trial. They argued it was part of Jodi's alibi. She wanted to create a record, a digital footprint, showing that she didn't know Travis was dead, that she was just a friendly ex-girlfriend checking in. But the call was damning. At 8:04 p.m., Travis Alexander had been dead for 6 hours. His body was decomposing in his upstairs bathroom, and Jodi Arias was pretending like nothing was wrong. Jodi Arias killed Travis Alexander in 7 minutes. She spent the next 3 years lying about it, but the camera remembered what she tried to forget. And the truth was timestamped. For 5 days, Travis Alexander's body lay undiscovered in his upstairs bathroom. His roommates, Zachary Billings and Enrique Cortez, assumed Travis had left for his Cancun trip early. The house smelled bad. They thought maybe a pipe had burst or food had spoiled. They didn't investigate. Travis's friends, however, knew something was wrong. June 5, 9th. Growing concern. On June 5, 2008, Travis was supposed to participate in a PPL conference call. He didn't show up. His friends called his cell phone. No answer. They left messages. Nothing. Mimi Hall, the woman Travis was supposed to take to Cancun, tried calling him repeatedly. She was confused, worried. Travis had been so excited about the trip. Why wasn't he answering? By June 9th, Travis's friends were alarmed. They decided to go to his house. June 9th, 2008, 10:00 p.m. The discovery. On the evening of June 9th, 2008, Travis's friends, including Mimi Hall and another PPL colleague, arrived at his house. The door was locked. They knocked. No answer. Travis's roommates let them in. The group began searching the house. They called out for Travis. Nothing. They checked his bedroom. Empty. They noticed a foul smell coming from the upstairs bathroom. One of the friends opened the bathroom door. What they saw would haunt them forever. Travis Alexander's body was slumped in the shower stall, decomposed and contorted. Blood covered the walls, the floor, and the sink. The smell was overwhelming. Mimi Hall immediately dialed 911. Her voice, captured on the 911 recording, was panicked and sobbing. "We just found our friend dead in his home. There's blood everywhere. I think he's been shot. Please, send someone now." The crime scene. Mesa Police Department officers arrived within minutes. Detectives from the homicide unit, led by Detective Esteban Flores, took over the scene. What they found was one of the most violent crime scenes they'd ever processed. Blood spatter on the walls, ceiling, and floor of the bathroom. A blood trail leading from the shower down the hallway toward Travis's bedroom. Defensive wounds on Travis's hands, indicating he'd fought back. A digital camera in the washing machine, tangled in towels and clothes. A bloody palm print on the hallway wall. A strand of hair, stuck in the blood on the bathroom floor. Forensic technicians photographed everything. They collected blood samples. They dusted for fingerprints. They analyzed spatter patterns. And they recovered the camera's memory card. When the forensic team reviewed the deleted photos on the camera, they knew immediately. This wasn't a random attack. The photos showed a woman had been present. The timestamps proved she'd been there during the murder. And the bloody palm print would identify her. The autopsy. June 10, 2008. The autopsy, performed by Dr. Kevin Horn, confirmed what detectives suspected. Travis Alexander had been murdered in a prolonged, violent attack. The cause of death: exsanguination, blood loss, due to multiple stab wounds and a severed carotid artery. The manner of death: homicide. Dr. Horn's report detailed 27 stab wounds, 9 to the back. A throat wound severing the trachea, esophagus, and carotid artery. A gunshot wound to the right temple, with the bullet lodging in the left cheek. Defensive wounds to the hands and fingers. The brutality of the injuries told detectives this was personal. Whoever killed Travis Alexander knew him, and they wanted him to suffer. The suspects. Detectives immediately began compiling a list of potential suspects. They interviewed Travis's friends, roommates, and family. They asked about his relationships, his business dealings, and whether he had any enemies. One name kept coming up: Jodi Arias. Friends told detectives about the breakup, the stalking, the tire slashing, the hacking, the obsessive behavior. They said Travis had been afraid of Jodi, that he'd told people she was crazy. Mimi Hall told detectives that Travis had mentioned Jodi was upset he was taking someone else to Cancun. She said Travis felt like Jodi was always watching him. Detectives pulled phone records. They found that Jodi had called Travis multiple times in the weeks leading up to his death, and once on the evening of June 4th, just hours after the murder. They also found something else. Jodi Arias had been traveling during the time of the murder. She'd rented a car in California. She'd driven to Utah, and her route, based on gas receipts and phone records, took her directly through Arizona. The DNA match, June 12, 2008. On June 12, 2008, forensic analysts processed the bloody palm print found on the hallway wall. They ran the DNA through the system. The result was definitive. The print belonged to Jodi Arias. The blood in the print was a mixture: Travis Alexander's blood and Jodi's DNA. The print had been made when Jodi's hand, wet with Travis's blood, pressed against the wall. Forensic analysts also confirmed that the strand of hair found in the blood belonged to Jodi. Detectives now had physical evidence placing Jodi Arias at the crime scene on the day of the murder. June 15, 2008. First contact. On June 15, 2008, Detective Esteban Flores called Jodi Arias de Arias. He identified himself as a detective with the Mesa Police Department and said he was investigating the death of Travis Alexander. Jodi's response was calm. Too calm. "Oh my God. Travis is dead. What happened?" Detective Flores told her they were investigating. He asked if Jodi would be willing to come in for an interview. She agreed. But even in that first phone call, Detective Flores noticed something off. Jodi wasn't crying. She wasn't hysterical. She asked very few questions about how Travis died or when it happened. It was as if she already knew. When Detective Flores told Jodi Arias that Travis Alexander was dead, she didn't ask how. She didn't ask when. She didn't ask who. She just said, "Oh my God." But there were no tears. No shock. Just a performance. Jodi Arias told 3 different stories about June 4, 2008. Each one contradicted the last. Each one fell apart under scrutiny. And each one proved what Detective Esteban Flores suspected from the start. Jodi Arias was lying. Story #1. I wasn't there. June 15, July 14, 2008. On June 15, 2008, Jodi Arias spoke to Detective Flores for the first time. He called her to inform her about Travis's death and asked if she'd be willing to be interviewed. Jodi agreed immediately. She said she wanted to help in any way she could. On July 15, 2008, Jodi met Detective Flores at the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office in Eureka, California, for a formal interview. The interrogation was recorded. And Jodi's first story was simple. She hadn't been to Travis's house in months. In the interrogation room, Jodi appeared cooperative. She cried. She asked questions about Travis. She said she couldn't believe he was dead. Detective Flores asked her about her road trip. Jodi said she'd driven from California to Utah on June 3 or 4 to visit Ryan Burns. She said she never went through Arizona. She said she took a northern route through Nevada. Detective Flores asked if she'd seen Travis recently. Jodi said no. The last time she'd seen Travis was in April, before she moved back to California. Detective Flores asked if Jodi would be willing to provide fingerprints and DNA samples. Jodi agreed without hesitation. She said she had nothing to hide. But Detective Flores had already processed the crime scene. He knew Jodi's palm print and hair had been found in Travis's bathroom. He knew Jodi was lying. He decided to wait, to let Jodi dig herself deeper. Story #2. 2 intruders did it. July 15, 2008. Later in the same interrogation, after Detective Flores confronted Jodi with evidence, she changed her story. Detective Flores told her about the palm print. He told her about the hair. He told her about the photos on the camera, the photos showing her at Travis's house on June 4th, the day of the murder. Jodi's demeanor shifted. She stopped crying. She became defensive. And then she told a second story. Jodi admitted she had been at Travis's house on June 4th. She said she'd lied earlier because she was scared and ashamed. But she insisted she didn't kill Travis. Instead, Jodi claimed that 2 intruders, a man and a woman, had broken into Travis's house while she and Travis were together. She said the male intruder pointed a gun at her and told her to get on the floor. She said the female intruder held a knife. Jodi claimed the intruders attacked Travis in the bathroom while she cowered on the floor, too terrified to move. She said she heard Travis screaming. She said she saw them dragging his body. And then, she said, the intruders let her go, but warned her that if she ever told anyone, they'd kill her family. Jodi said that's why she'd lied at first. She was protecting her family. Detective Flores listened. Then he began poking holes in her story. Why didn't you call 911? Why didn't you try to help Travis? Why didn't you tell anyone about the intruders for 6 weeks? Why would the intruders let you live? Jodi had no good answers. She stammered. She cried. She said she was scared. She said she couldn't think clearly. She said she was in shock. Detective Flores pressed harder. He told Jodi that the forensic evidence didn't support her story. There was no sign of forced entry. No evidence of anyone else being in the house. The only DNA found at the scene belonged to Travis and Jodi. And the photos on the camera? They showed Jodi taking pictures of Travis in the shower just minutes before he was killed. If there were intruders, where were they in the photos? Jodi's second story crumbled. The arrest, July 15, 2008. At the end of the interrogation, Detective Flores arrested Jodi Arias and charged her with first-degree murder. As officers placed handcuffs on her wrists, Jodi made a bizarre statement that would later become infamous. "I want to compliment you on doing a great job. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but, you're good at what you do." She was smiling. July 16, 2008. The extradition. Jodi waived extradition and was transported from California to Arizona to await trial. She was held at the Maricopa County Jail without bond. For the next 4 years, Jodi Arias sat in jail, awaiting her day in court. And during those 4 years, her story would change one final time. Story #3. It was self-defense, 2013 trial testimony. By the time Jodi's trial began, January 2013, her story had evolved again. Gone were the claims about intruders. Gone were the denials of killing Travis. Instead, Jodi now claimed she killed Travis, but only in self-defense. Jodi took the stand on February 4, 2013, and testified for 18 days, a record for defendant testimony in Arizona. She told a story designed to garner sympathy and raise reasonable doubt. Jodi claimed Travis had been physically and emotionally abusive throughout their relationship. She said he'd shoved her, grabbed her, and once body slammed her onto a tile floor. Travis was sexually deviant and pressured her into degrading sexual acts. She said he was obsessed with pornography and treated her like a sex object. On June 4, 2008, she and Travis had consensual sex in the afternoon. Afterward, Travis asked her to take photos of him in the shower. While taking photos, Jodi accidentally dropped the camera. Travis became enraged. He screamed at her, lunged at her, and body slammed her to the ground. Jodi ran to Travis's closet and grabbed a gun she'd seen on a shelf. She didn't know if it was loaded, but she pointed it at Travis to scare him. Travis kept coming at her. She pulled the trigger. The gun went off. Travis fell. After that, Jodi said, she couldn't remember anything. She claimed to have no memory of stabbing Travis 27 times or slashing his throat. She said she blacked out from the trauma. Jodi testified that the next thing she remembered, she was driving in the desert, covered in blood, with no idea how she'd gotten there. It was, prosecutors argued, the most absurd story yet, and the evidence proved it was a lie. The evidence that destroyed Jodi's self-defense claim. Prosecutor Juan Martinez systematically dismantled Jodi's self-defense claim during cross-examination. 1. The stab wounds to Travis's back. 9 of the 27 stab wounds were to Travis's back. If Jodi shot Travis first, as she claimed, and he fell, how did he end up with 9 stab wounds to his back? Forensic evidence showed Travis had been trying to run away. He wasn't attacking Jodi. He was fleeing from her. Self-defense doesn't include chasing someone down and stabbing them in the back. 2. The throat slash. The throat wound was so deep it nearly decapitated Travis. Forensic experts testified that this level of force requires the victim to be stationary, either unconscious or already restrained. If Jodi was defending herself, why did she slash Travis's throat with such violence? 3. The forgotten gun. The trial of Jodi Arias began on January 2, 2013, in Maricopa County Superior Court, Phoenix, Arizona. Judge Sherry Stevens presided. Prosecutor Juan Martinez represented the state. And Jodi's defense team, Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot, faced an uphill battle. The trial would last 4 months, making it one of the longest and most watched criminal trials in American history. And at the center of it all was Jodi Arias herself, who took the stand and testified for 18 days, a record that stunned legal experts and captivated the nation. The prosecution's case, premeditated murder. Prosecutor Juan Martinez's strategy was clear. Proof that Jodi Arias planned and executed the murder of Travis Alexander with cold, calculated precision. Martinez presented evidence in a methodical, relentless manner. 1. The premeditation evidence. Martinez showed the jury gas can receipts showing Jodi purchased and borrowed 3 gas cans before the trip. Rental car records showing Jodi drove 2,800 miles, far more than a simple trip from California to Utah. Hair dye purchases showing Jodi changed her appearance. Cell phone records showing Jodi turned off her phone for 16 hours during the time of the murder. The stolen gun report from Jodi's grandfather's house, a .25 caliber handgun matching the caliber used to shoot Travis. Martinez argued that each piece of evidence individually might seem innocent, but together they painted a clear picture. Jodi Arias planned to kill Travis Alexander, and she tried to get away with it. 2. The forensic evidence. Martinez presented the crime scene photos, the autopsy report, and the recovered camera photos. He walked the jury through the timeline. 1:40 p.m. Jodi taking photos of Travis in the shower. 1:44 p.m. Accidental photo showing the attack has begun. 1:47 p.m. Photo showing Travis's body being dragged. Martinez argued that the photos proved Jodi lied. She wasn't defending herself. She was attacking Travis, and she documented it all. 3. The lies. Martinez played recordings of Jodi's interrogations. He showed the jury how Jodi lied repeatedly about being at Travis's house, about the intruders, about everything. He argued that innocent people don't lie. Innocent people don't change their stories 3 times. Innocent people tell the truth. And Jodi Arias? She was a liar, a manipulator, and a murderer. The defense's case: domestic violence and self-defense. Jodi's defense team faced a nearly impossible task: explain away the overwhelming evidence against her. Their strategy? Paint Travis Alexander as the villain and Jodi as the victim. The defense argued that Travis was emotionally and physically abusive toward Jodi throughout their relationship. Travis was sexually deviant and treated Jodi like an object. On June 4th, Travis attacked Jodi in a rage, and she defended herself. Jodi's lies during the interrogation were the result of trauma, fear, and PTSD. To support these claims, the defense called several expert witnesses. 1. Alice Laviolette, domestic violence expert. Laviolette testified that Jodi exhibited signs of being a domestic violence victim. She said Jodi's behavior, staying in the relationship despite abuse, lying to protect Travis, was consistent with battered woman syndrome. But Laviolette's testimony backfired. Under cross-examination by Juan Martinez, she admitted she'd never interviewed Travis because he was dead, never reviewed emails from Travis's friends that contradicted Jodi's claims, and based her entire opinion on Jodi's word alone. Martinez tore into Laviolette, suggesting she was biased and unprofessional. The jury seemed to agree. 2. Richard Samuels, psychologist. Dr. Samuels testified that Jodi suffered from PTSD as a result of killing Travis. He said her memory gaps, her inability to remember stabbing Travis, were consistent with trauma-induced amnesia. But Martinez exposed flaws in Samuels' methodology. He showed that Samuels had administered PTSD tests before Jodi changed her story to self-defense, meaning the tests were based on her intruder story, not the truth. Martinez also pointed out that Samuels had given Jodi a self-help book during his evaluation, a violation of professional ethics. 3. Jodi Arias, 18 days on the stand. The defense's riskiest move was putting Jodi on the stand. For 18 days, Jodi testified about her life, her relationship with Travis, the abuse she claimed to suffer, and the events of June 4, 2020. At first, Jodi seemed credible. She spoke calmly. She cried at appropriate moments. She seemed genuine. But then Juan Martinez began his cross-examination, and everything changed. The cross-examination, Martinez versus Arias. Juan Martinez's cross-examination of Jodi Arias is considered one of the most aggressive and effective in modern trial history. Martinez's strategy was simple: expose Jodi as a liar by catching her in contradictions, forcing her to admit inconsistencies, and showing the jury that her entire story was fabricated. Over the course of several days, Martinez dissected every aspect of Jodi's testimony. Memory gaps. Jodi claimed she couldn't remember stabbing Travis. She said she blacked out from trauma. Martinez confronted her. You remember taking photos of Travis at 1:40 p.m., correct? Yes. Oh. You remember dropping the camera? Yes. You remember Travis lunging at you? Yes. You remember running to the closet and grabbing the gun? Yes. You remember shooting Travis? Yes. But you don't remember stabbing him 27 times. No. I don't remember that. You don't remember slashing his throat? No. No. Martinez pointed out the absurdity. Jodi had perfect memory of everything that supported her self-defense claim, but no memory of anything that made her look like a cold-blooded killer. The jury didn't buy it. The gas cans. Martinez spent hours grilling Jodi about the gas cans. Why did she need 3? Why did she borrow them from her ex-boyfriend? Why did she pay cash? Jodi insisted the gas cans were innocent. She said she just wanted to save money on gas. But Martinez showed receipts proving Jodi filled the gas cans in Pasadena, California, then drove straight through Arizona without stopping for gas. He argued this was proof of premeditation. Jodi didn't want to leave a paper trail showing she'd been in Arizona. The hair dye. Martinez asked Jodi why she dyed her hair blonde the night before the murder. Jodi said she just wanted a change. Martinez suggested it was a disguise. Jodi denied it. But when Ryan Burns testified that Jodi's hair looked strawberry blonde and poorly dyed when she arrived in Utah, it undermined Jodi's claim that the hair dye was innocent. The forgetful gun. Martinez hammered Jodi about the gun she claimed to find in Travis's closet. You'd been to Travis's house hundreds of times, correct? Yes. And you'd seen this gun on the shelf before? Yes, I think so. You think so? Or you know so? I'm not sure. Martinez pointed out that Travis's friends testified Travis didn't own a gun. Travis was anti-gun. The gun Jodi claimed to find didn't exist. And the gun used in the murder? A .25 caliber, the same caliber stolen from Jodi's grandfather's house 1 week before. By the end of the cross-examination, Jodi looked defeated. She was evasive. She was combative. And she was caught in lie after lie. The jury questions. 200 questions of skepticism. One of the most unusual aspects of the Jodi Arias trial was Arizona's practice of allowing jurors to submit written questions to witnesses. After Jodi finished her testimony, both direct and cross-examination, Judge Stevens invited the jurors to submit questions they wanted to ask the defendant. The jurors submitted more than 200 questions for Jodi Arias. Legal analysts called it unprecedented. Most witnesses received 10-20 jury questions at most, but the Jodi Arias jury had 200 questions, a clear indication they were skeptical, confused, and unconvinced by her testimony. Some of the jury questions were pointed and devastating. Why would you take the time to delete photos from the camera after you killed Travis in self-defense? If you were truly in fear for your life, why didn't you run out of the house after shooting him? You testified that you have excellent memory of events before and after the attack, but no memory during the attack. Isn't that convenient? Why did you gas up your rental car so carefully to avoid leaving a trail in Arizona if this was just a spontaneous visit? If Travis was so abusive, why did you drive 1,000 miles to see him? You said you couldn't remember stabbing Travis. Do you remember dragging his body back to the shower? The questions went on for 2 days. Jodi struggled to answer them. She became defensive. She contradicted herself, and the jury took note of every evasion, every deflection, every implausible explanation. Legal commentators noted that the sheer volume of jury questions signaled that the jury didn't believe Jodi. If they'd found her credible, they wouldn't have had 200 unanswered questions. The questions revealed skepticism at every level of her story. Jodi's media manipulation. The Inside Edition interview. While awaiting trial in 28, Jodi Arias did something shocking. she agreed to an interview with Inside Edition from jail. In the interview, Jodi appeared calm, collected, and defiant. She spoke directly to the camera and declared her innocence. She said she didn't kill Travis Alexander. She said she wasn't even in Arizona when he died. She claimed she had witnesses, alibis, and evidence that would exonerate her. The interview was played during the trial. Prosecutor Juan Martinez used it to show the jury just how manipulative and calculating Jodi could be. He pointed out that everything she said in the Inside Edition interview was a lie. She was in Arizona. She did kill Travis, and the evidence she claimed would clear her didn't exist. The interview became a key piece of evidence for the prosecution. Not because of what Jodi said, but because of how easily she lied on camera, with confidence and conviction, knowing everything she said was false. The Twitter account, Jodi Arias tweets from jail. During the trial, something bizarre happened. A Twitter account appeared under Jodi Arias' name. The account began posting commentary about the trial, attacking the prosecution, defending Jodi, and promoting her artwork. Inmates aren't allowed to have social media accounts. So how was Jodi tweeting? It turned out that Jodi was dictating her thoughts over the phone to a friend named Donovan Baring, who then posted them on Twitter on Jodi's behalf. Baring was a former inmate who had befriended Jodi in jail and become one of her most loyal supporters. The tweets were provocative. Jodi attacked Nancy Grace, calling LN haters love negativity. She mocked prosecutor Juan Martinez. She posted updates about her artwork and encouraged supporters to buy her drawings. Judge Stevens and the prosecution were furious. They argued the Twitter account was an attempt by Jodi to manipulate public opinion and influence potential jurors. The defense argued Jodi had a First Amendment right to express herself, even from jail. The Twitter account remained active throughout the trial, adding another layer of media spectacle to an already sensationalized case. The verdict, May 8, 2013. On May 8, 2013, after deliberating for 15 hours, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty. First-degree murder. The courtroom erupted. Travis's family sobbed with relief. Jodi stood expressionless. Judge Stevens polled the jury. All 12 jurors confirmed the verdict. Guilty. But the trial wasn't over. Arizona law required a separate penalty phase to determine Jodi's sentence: life in prison or death. It took Jodi Arias 18 days to testify. It took the jury 200 questions to expose her lies. And it took just 15 hours to deliver the verdict. Guilty. First-degree murder. The evidence had spoken. The Jodi Arias case captivated the world not because of the murder itself, tragic and brutal as it was, but because of the lies, the manipulation, the performance. For nearly 5 years, from the murder in 2008 to the sentencing in 2015, Jodi Arias played a role. She was the victim, the survivor, the woman defending herself from an abusive man. But the evidence told a different story. The camera told the truth, and the jury saw through the lies. Why this case still matters. The Jodi Arias case offers critical lessons. 1. Intimate partner violence isn't always what it seemed. Jodi claimed Travis was abusive. The defense presented this claim as fact. But the evidence showed the opposite. Jodi was the aggressor. She stalked Travis. She hacked his accounts. She slashed his tires. She terrorized him. This case reminds us that abusers often claim to be victims. And without corroborating evidence, we must be careful about accepting claims at face value. 2. Forensic evidence doesn't lie. The camera's time-stamped photos were the key to solving this case. They proved Jodi was present. They proved she lied. They proved the murder was premeditated. In the age of digital forensics, criminals can no longer rely on destroying evidence. Digital footprints are everywhere, and they tell the truth. 3. The danger of obsession. Jodi's obsession with Travis Alexander destroyed both their lives. She couldn't let go. She couldn't accept that he'd moved on. And when she realized she'd truly lost him, she killed him. This case is a warning. Obsession is dangerous. Stalking is dangerous. And ignoring red flags can be fatal. What happened to the key players? Juan Martinez, prosecutor. Martinez became a legal celebrity after the trial, writing a best-selling book titled Conviction, the untold story of putting Jodi Arias behind bars. However, in 2020, he was disbarred by the Arizona State Bar for ethical violations in multiple cases, including allegations of sexual misconduct with female bloggers covering trials, and prosecutorial misconduct. The disbarment came after the Arizona Supreme Court found he had engaged in egregious conduct in 5 different capital cases. Martinez's fall from grace was a stunning reversal for the prosecutor who had once been celebrated as a courtroom hero. Kirk Normey, defense attorney. Normey also wrote a book about the case titled Trapped with Ms. Arias, Part 1 of 3. From getting the file to being ready for trial, in which he criticized the media coverage, expressed his frustration with representing Jodi, and detailed the emotional toll the case took on him. Normey later revealed he'd been diagnosed with cancer during the trial and lost 75 pounds due to stress and illness. He has since retired from practicing law and rarely speaks publicly about the case. Travis Alexander's family. Travis's siblings have spoken publicly about the trauma of the trial and the loss of their brother. They have advocated for victims' rights and continue to honor Travis's memory through charity work and public speaking. Travis's sister, Samantha Alexander, has been particularly vocal about the need for stronger stalking laws and greater awareness of intimate partner violence. The family established the Travis Alexander Foundation to support causes related to education and preventing violence. Jodi Arias. Jodi remains in prison at the Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville, Arizona, where she will remain for the rest of her life. She has maintained an active presence through supporters who manage her social media accounts and sell her artwork online. Jodi has taken up drawing and painting in prison, selling her pieces to supporters and collectors fascinated by the case. Her artwork, mostly portraits and landscapes, sells for hundreds of dollars. She has also launched a blog, managed by third parties, where she posts updates about her life in prison, commentary on the case, and her thoughts on various topics. Jodi continues to assert that she acted in self-defense and has filed multiple appeals, all of which have been denied. In 2020, the Arizona Court of Appeals upheld her conviction, ruling that despite Juan Martinez's misconduct in other cases, the evidence against Jodi Arias was overwhelming, and her conviction was justified. Jodi's life in prison. Life inside Arizona State Prison Complex, Perryville is a far cry from the media spotlight Jodi enjoyed during the trial. She's housed in a medium security unit, having been downgraded from maximum security after several years of good behavior. Jodi's daily routine consists of work assignments. She works in the prison's craft program, creating art supplies and materials for other inmates. Recreation time. Limited outdoor time in a secured yard. By visiting hours, Jodi receives visits from supporters, though her parents have reportedly had sporadic contact with her since her conviction. Correspondence. She maintains active correspondence with supporters around the world who write to her, send money, and purchase her artwork. Donna Van Bering, Jodi's friend who managed her Twitter account during the trial, has remained one of her most vocal supporters. Bering continues to advocate for Jodi, claiming she was wrongfully convicted and that Travis Alexander was the real abuser. The cultural phenomenon. The Jodi Arias trial became a ratings juggernaut for cable news. Alien broadcast the trial live, gavel to gavel, for months. Nancy Grace and other hosts dissected every moment, every testimony, every lie. The trial became entertainment. Viewers tuned in daily, captivated by Jodi's testimony, Juan Martinez's aggressive cross-examination, and the salacious details of Travis and Jodi's relationship. Critics argued the media coverage turned the trial into a spectacle, glamorizing a brutal murder and exploiting Travis's death for ratings. The coverage was criticized for victim blaming. Some commentators suggested Travis brought this on himself by continuing a sexual relationship with Jodi. Sensationalism. The focus on sex, lies, and drama overshadowed the fact that a man was brutally murdered. Trial by media. The constant coverage and commentary potentially influenced public perception and put pressure on the jurors. But the coverage also brought attention to issues of domestic violence, stalking, and the dangers of obsessive relationship. It sparked conversations about male victims of stalking. Travis Alexander's story highlighted that men can also be victims of stalking and intimate partner violence, though they're often less likely to report it or seek help. Digital forensics. The case demonstrated the power of digital evidence in modern criminal investigations. The dangers of ignoring red flags. Travis's friends had warned him repeatedly about Jodi. His decision to continue engaging with her, despite the warnings, proved fatal. The final truth. On June 4, 2008, Travis Alexander was murdered by someone he once loved. He was stabbed 27 times. His throat was slashed. He was shot in the head. He died alone, in his own bathroom, terrified and in pain. Jodi Arias tried to cover it up. She lied to detectives. She lied to the media. She lied to the jury. But the camera didn't lie. The forensic evidence didn't lie. And the jury saw the truth. Jodi Arias will spend the rest of her life in prison. Travis Alexander is gone forever. And the lies that Jodi told will be remembered as a cautionary tale, a reminder that obsession, when unchecked, can turn deadly. This is the story of Jodi Arias. The lies, the obsession, the murder, and the camera that captured it all. Jodi Arias thought she could lie her way to freedom. She thought she could manipulate the jury, the media, the world. But she forgot one thing. The truth doesn't change. And the truth was time-stamped, photographed, and written in blood. She killed Travis Alexander. And the evidence made sure the world would never forget.